Hi, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Laurel. I'm Laurel, and in this video we're going to look at how we multiply polynomials. The rule simply is when you have two polynomials being multiplied, you take every term in the first polynomial and multiply it to every term in the other polynomial. We'll look at what we do if we have more than two polynomials a little bit later, but let's just go with that to start with. So my first example, I actually have a monomial because there's only one term, multiplied to a polynomial, which in this case is a trinomial. I'm only mentioning these things because you're going to hear the terminology, so I just want you to be comfortable. Trinomial is going to be a polynomial with three terms. So we take this first polynomial, or in this case monomial, and we multiply to each term in the second polynomial. So I'm going to do it longhand. I've got t squared v cubed times t plus. So that's the first term. Then I distribute and multiply to the next term. So I've got t squared v cubed times 4tv. And then I do the same thing with the last term. And I'm going to have, it's going to be, you can either write it as plus a negative, or you can just simply write it as minus, because a positive times a negative is negative. So it's minus t squared v cubed times 3v squared. And now what I'm going to do is just simplify each of these terms using my rules of exponents. So t squared times t, we add the exponents, will be t cubed, and then we have v cubed. Plus 4 times 1 is just 4. T squared times t is t cubed. V cubed times v to the 1 is v to the 3 plus 1, which is v to the 4th power. The last term, 3 times 1 is 3. T squared, there's no t's to multiply to. And I have v cubed times v squared. I add the exponents, so v to the 5th. That's how we multiply in that example. Let's take a look at a couple more examples. All right, in our next example, we have polynomial times a polynomial. Because it has two terms, that's a binomial, that's a binomial. And there's a bit of a shortcut that we can use when we're multiplying a binomial by a binomial, which I will talk about. It's called FOIL. But I want to explain it in terms of the general rule for any number of terms in your polynomial, and then I'll show you the shortcut. So again, we take every term in our first polynomial and multiply to every term in our second polynomial. So my first term here is 6a. I'm going to multiply to each of those terms in my second polynomial. So I'll have 6a times 5a plus 6a times 2b. Now I take my second term in my first polynomial and multiply to each term in the second polynomial. So it's going to be negative 3b times 5a minus 3b, so negative, times 2b. Now I'm going to simplify. So 5 times 6 is 30. A times a, we add the exponents, will be a squared. Plus 6 times 2 is 12. A times b. Minus 3 times 5 is 15. A times b. Minus 3 times 2 is 6. B times b is b squared. We're not done because we have two terms that are like terms, and we know that we can combine those. So I have 12, positive 12ab minus 15 is a negative 3. So minus 3ab minus 6b squared. So that would be my final result. Now a lot of teachers will teach this method calling it FOIL, and it's specific to a binomial times a binomial. And this refers to first, so I took my first term in each binomial and multiplied to get this. Then O refers to outside. So this is outside and this is outside. So we multiply 6a times 2b. Then I is inside terms. So inside term, there would be negative 3b times 5a. And L refers to last. So negative 3b times 2b. So that might help you in remembering how you multiply that out, and you'll still get the same result. All right, let's look at another example. In this case, we have a trinomial multiplied to another trinomial. And when you're doing the multiplication, it can be any number of terms in one polynomial, any number of terms in the other polynomial. But the rule is you take every term in the first one and multiply to each of the terms in the second polynomial. All right, so we take our first term in our first polynomial and I multiply to each of these terms. I'm going to need a lot of room for this example. So I multiplied to each of these. Then I take the second term in the first polynomial, b, and I multiply that to each of these terms. And lastly, I take the last term of my first polynomial and multiply to each term in the second polynomial. Now I'm going to simplify, combine everything, and then combine like terms. So I have 12a squared minus 15ab plus 3a plus 4ab minus 5b squared plus b minus 8a minus a negative times a negative will be a positive, so that will be plus 10b minus 2. Now I'm going to see what terms are like terms so that I can combine them. Do I have any other a squared terms? No. So AB, I've got a negative 15AB, I have a 4AB, and that's it. So negative 15 plus 4 is negative 11AB. So I've got that term, and that term. I'm going to then take my 5b, or 5b squared term. There's no other b squared terms, so I've got that. I'm going to look at my a terms. I have 3a minus 8a will be, those are like terms, so negative 5a. Got those. b plus 10b, those are like terms, so that will be 11b. Got those. And then minus 2. And that's how we multiply a polynomial with more than 2 terms to another polynomial with more than 2 terms. If you had multinomials which are similar to polynomials except they can include negative and fractional exponents, you would follow the same rules, just being aware of your laws of exponents, because when you multiply, for example, a times a, you have to remember that when the base is the same, you can combine those by adding the exponents. So all of those rules that were in the laws of exponents, you would apply regardless of what type of exponents you have in your polynomials. So that's really all there is to multiplying multiple polynomials. Try some on your own, different types, monomial times a polynomial, 2 polynomials with whatever number of terms. Make sure you get lots of practice and simplify by adding and combining like terms. And once you're confident with that, then you can move on to the next video, which in this case is going to be dividing polynomials. So that will be coming up next. Have fun and take care, and we'll see you on the next video.